Hey Slim, check you out, man. Look at that. Look at that big boy go. No, happy days, man. Some really good stuff I'm seeing actually. I've got very little I can comment on really. I mean, you've got maybe quite a lot of mind specific action going on along here. So that would suggest that you kind of bringing people from this side here. But I guess if you're coming from this side, maybe you need a little bit more protection. I did see a guy, I remember posting it on the forum, I did see a guy once who specifically parked his base. So you see where the M on my screen there, or where strike is, just in case the M doesn't show up. He kind of parked his base as if that's where he was going to attack from, knowing that the fobs from our defence would come from that side, and he had his minds completely in this direction. So when your fobs obviously waded in, they were completely and utterly knackered by these mines. So that's quite effective. So if that's your thought, then well played. But obviously, does it give you protection from this side? That's maybe something to have a little scan about. So possibly spread those out a little bit. But I do like it. I do like what you're coming up with. I'd be mindful. You've got two fobs. Sorry, you've got two peacemakers here. I did say I was pissed, by the way. You got two peacemakers here on a similar parallel line to each other. The danger of that is if I were to say park a tank, say where number 6 is, about here, and get those peacemakers to lock on, and then say send it up that baseline there, both of those peacemakers would lock on to said target, and that would basically mean that both of them would be out of commission, enabling me to perhaps get underneath. So maybe just stagger them slightly, maybe swap one peacemaker for that flak. So you've got kind of 3 peacemakers in different orientations rather than in one line. That's the only critique I can come up with. And then I've got to contend with the spooky. And the good thing with a spooky, you don't quite know what level it's at. I mean, it could be level 1, but all you see is a spooky, isn't it? So it's really good thought process, really. So great that you've got that. Now, machine guns at this level, would I? Not quite sure. I'd maybe change that to salvos. Maybe you want an extra flak in there, do you? I mean, let's have a look what you got what have you got in air defence. Look at the snipers by the look, which will help. We've got, what have we got in the tanks? So yeah, maybe you possibly need a little bit more air defense. It could be you're thinking, you know what, this F-35, fuck it, I can't. If I get hit by that, I'm hit by that. You've got 2 flak in there certainly. Perhaps an extra flak in there versus 1 machine gun, maybe something to look at. Just so you're a little bit more air savvy, because I don't think Spooker does much for air attack. You're certainly well covered on ground attack. So that's really good. No, I'm liking it, mate. I think it's looking good. I think it's looking very good. Spawn zone's absolutely fantastic. Really pushing people out in the open there. And I quite like the randomisation. You've obviously picked that up. It's something I'm trying to work on at the moment. You could maybe even randomise your walls a little bit more. So if you want tanks to get stuck on these mines, and maybe have some walls kind of just to make them pause. I mean, one of the biggest problems we've got at the moment is fob attack, isn't it? If you're getting attacked by fobs on the world map, these fobs kind of just steamroller in, where you and I know that if you can kind of hold that fob at bay, if you will, the tanks or the obviously not so much the helicopters clearly, but the infantry fob, if you can hold them at bay long enough to let the peacemakers work, to let the spooky work, to let your tanks work, or whatever it might be, your heavy cannon, then that works really well. So with that in mind, maybe have some sort of defense in front of that heavy cannon, maybe a little bit of a wall going on there, quite like in the railgun here. I mean, I've been thinking about bases a lot. I mean, I'm always thinking about a deliberate attack, but you have very little control over a fob attack. So yeah, perhaps setting up these little traps that work well, these railguns that take care of things. I mean, if you are going to go railgun, my personal advice would be have one next to a transformer to make sure obviously it's going to work well. But just a top tip, although from here not, you could not spawn there and take that railgun out without obviously getting hit by the heavy cannon. So you have obviously thought about it, but any transform, so any turret in front of a wall, you and I know from playing the events that if you hit that wall, you'll take the turret out. So if you can outrange the turret and just hit the wall, then obviously that's the turret over. So any turrets that are behind walls, I think, need to be at least one click away from the wall, so that you don't get the turret for free. You've got to earn your turrets. You've also got to be careful here as well. If one turret's touching the other, which I think that is certainly happening here, then if I hit one turret, the chances are the splash damage will take the second turret out, so you get two turrets for the price of one. That's certainly definitely the case there, isn't it? If I hit that salvo, I'll probably get the peacemaker for free. So you can maybe just spread them out a little bit, because you need to be protecting against M270s, you need to be protecting against HIMARS. I mean, the most interesting thing is now for yourself, you're 57, which is absolutely fantastic, but that means you could be facing up to 67 enemies, couldn't you? So you need to be a little bit more strategic in how things are working. I'd also think, like I said, bring these mines in a little bit closer. Initially, I was always thinking, well, where are they going to want to start from and put the mines in that position? But obviously, you kind of maybe want the mines, because once you get past those mines, if you do get past them, then obviously there's no mine threat anywhere else in the base. So maybe you could possibly position some mines a little bit closer in there just to maximise their damage. But you know what? Overall, apart from possibly turrets touching, apart from possibly turrets next to walls, which is vulnerability, maybe having some walls in this area just to slow them down onto the mines, perhaps, and maybe having some sort of wall so that on a turret attack, on a fob attack, you could perhaps slow them down so that they grind to a halt in front of your heavy cannon. There's very little I can say differently. I think there's nice randomisation, there's nice things going on. Looking good, mate. Just see how it goes. Keep reviewing it. Keep tweaking. Keep if you find somebody's got past something, you think, well, I just alter that mine a little bit. That's exactly what you should be doing. But you make an X-ray proud, son. Well done.